So one of the things that did arise in this intertestamental period, as far as I understand, is this oral law of creating these fences. Now, with that in mind, when it comes to, let's take Sabbath things where Jesus got in trouble with the Pharisees, was he actually breaking the law, or was he breaking the Pharisees' version of the law?
Jesus seems to argue it in two ways at different times. One, there are exceptions to the law. So he will point back to what David did, and then also to the true meaning of the law. At other times, he makes a divine claim. My Father is working, so I am working is a divine claim. That's why in John, at that point, people take up stones, because he's making his equality with God something unique. And they had an understanding that God was always at work in some ways, because otherwise the universe would collapse. So even though God took a Sabbath rest, there were some things he still did on the Sabbath. And Jesus is saying, as I understand it, I'm continuing just like my Father. So I think most of it was that the Pharisees were more strict. And so Jesus says, you lift an ox out of the well, but you won't allow me to heal somebody. You can totally messed up the idea of what Sabbath is about. And in fact, in some ways, they strangled the life out of the Sabbath. And Jesus brought life into the Sabbath. I'm not sure that's ever so clear, but that's my rambling on that question.
No, I think it is, and this is where I don't know whether I've misunderstood. I think the two things that you've just laid out are really helpful of Jesus's. So there's an element to which Jesus exclusively could do certain things in contrast, in relationship to the law, that other humans could not do and get away, should not do and get away with. If that makes sense. Because of his divine status, there are certain ways that he can relate to the law that a normal human should not be able to do.
Yeah, I'm not sure it was quite that clear. It's just the way he defended what he did on the Sabbath. So he's not answering, can you uniquely do this and nobody else? But when they say, why are you doing it? He goes, because I'm doing what my Father's doing. And in that is a unique claim. But I don't think you can be sure, if you'd ask Jesus, well, can I do something similar like that on the Sabbath? Does that give me license? I think that's another question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because one thing I'm trying to work out is whether in certain circumstances, Jesus's fight with the Pharisees was about, it seems to me that he wasn't so worried about their superficial desire to keep the Mosaic law, but it was with all of the extra stuff that they had put around that, the cultural rules, the traditional rules, the extra things that they had claimed were their way of just ensuring that everyone does keep the law, but actually were those extra traditional cultural things were what were adding so much weight upon people's shoulders.
Yeah.
So the yoke of heaviness wasn't necessarily what God had asked the Jewish people to keep the law. It was what the Pharisees had added unto the law, which hadn't helped them in any way, but had created this environment of suppression and oppression and all of that.
And then,
is that correct?
I mean, in Deuteronomy, towards the end, after the blessings and cursings, it's like it said, this is not too hard for you to do.
Yeah.
It wasn't supposed to be this crippling burden. It had become that because I think it works for us too. well, it could have started as well-meaning advice. If you don't want to fall down that ditch, then stay away from it, to becoming this is the only way to avoid that. And I'm going to judge you if you go beyond that, as though you're guilty of something. And one of the things about great advantages we have living under the Spirit is that we have the Spirit to guide us and help negotiate while keeping what God wants us to do. But it's very difficult to put rules down for every situation and every person. And the Spirit is given so that we can navigate that. That was a complication, I think, for Old Testament faithful believers, is how do I work out in every situation what is right when I'm haven't been given the gift of the Spirit that we have. But no, I think that, yes, he would, as Jesus says in the Sermon on the Mount, I've not come to abolish the law, I've come to fulfill it. And he would affirm that he had fulfilled the law, both in keeping it and then bringing it to completion. But when he asked, who of you accuses me of sin, they can't say, well, you broke this commandment and you broke this commandment and this commandment, because he hadn't. He had broken some of their rules. And whenever he challenged them, he was challenged on that. He turned the tables on them and said, you don't understand the law, really, and you don't understand who I am.